the holder of the card is indeed the owner of the card before we then process the person to be admitted.
The Corporate Affairs Director of the Ghana Immigration Service, Superintendent Amwa Kwata, said the identity of the Ghana card holder will be verified against the National Identity Register, and once this is successfully verified, the passenger will be admitted into the country.
The first step is for Ghanaians traveling into Ghana. If we want to go further and use the Ghana card to travel to other jurisdictions, then, like we said in the communication, Ghana should have bilateral agreements with any other country that will want to have that kind of reciprocal travel agreement with us. But for now, there's nothing in the offing. What we are doing now is to help Ghanaians come to Ghana on the Ghana card. And most importantly also, for dual national card holders, they do not need to apply for visas. So now the card waives up the need for a visa, and you just come in, you are cleared, and you go.
Some arriving passengers described it as a hassle-free process.
This is the first time using the Ghana card at the immigration, and if I should compare the time I spent when I used my passport and then my Ghana card, I feel the Ghana card was faster because in less than 2 minutes, it was like, take your mask off and then take your picture. So I felt I would take even though the passport is fair enough, I would still prefer the Ghana card compared to the passport when it comes to time consciousness. Yeah.
I'm a frequent traveler. Because me using the passport, sometimes it keeps like, it's going to take me like about 20 to 25 minutes. But me having the Ghana card, it's easier for me to go through the process like about 5 minutes. So it's more easier. So I would say anybody that doesn't have the Ghana card has to try and get it. And maybe if you're not ready to travel, maybe one day you will. And when you come in, it will be more easier for you to go through the process to arrive in Kotoka.
The Immigration Service says travelers must note that until bilateral arrangements are signed with other countries, the Ghana card cannot be used to travel outside the ECOWAS sub-region.
Away from the Ghana card, need some evacuation stories of Ghanaians from Ukraine. The first batch of Ghanaian students from Ukraine arrived on Tuesday at the Kotoka International Airport. 16 of them arrived at the Kotoka International Airport on a Qatar Airways flight and on a Turkish Airlines flight. They were reunited with their families after completing arrival formalities and COVID-19 protocols.
The Russian Federation invasion of Ukraine, which has dominated international headlines the world over, has caused over 500,000 people to flee from the country. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration says over 1,000 Ghanaians are in Ukraine. The government is working through its partners to secure them safe passage back home. These 17 students are the first batch to return home to their families. For the students and their loved ones, it was reunion in relief. The government says Ghana is the first African country to have evacuated its first group of nationals back home from the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister Mr. Kweku Amprechum Sapong told reporters at the airport that some 500 Ghanaians have already crossed the borders into neighboring countries, including Moldova, Poland and Hungary. He said there are plans to ensure that Ghanaians in hotspot areas are also brought to safety.
And the government is determined to continue to make sure that your colleagues who are still in transit to be evacuated will eventually be evacuated. We also want to go on record to thank the International Migration Organization for the support that they are giving. And we also want us all to remember our compatriots who have so far not been able to be evacuated. Some of your compatriots, assuming, hopefully, will be able to cross over to Russian territory itself. The government has laid plans to evacuate every student or every Ghanaian who is prepared and ready to come home.
Though questions were not allowed at the time from journalists to the students, some of them said that they paid for their tickets to return home, a claim we were not able to verify with government officials at the time. The leader of the group Chadiman, a fifth-year medical student, shared a word of thanks and hope.
I've studied for 5 years in Ukraine, and this is quite unfortunate we have to come home. But I want to first of all thank the Almighty God, also thank the government of Ghana, thank the various ambassadors, thank the ministry, and also reassure parents that their children will be back home. Siblings should be calm, friends should be calm. The government is doing its possible best to make us all come back home.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration reiterated its call on Russia to end its aggression in Ukraine.
Well, still on the evacuation of Ghanaian students in Ukraine, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration says it has received reports that some Ghanaian nationals in Ukraine do not want to return home in the wake of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. At a meeting in Accra, the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Ms. Shelley, that the group will be taking off the government assistance package after a couple of days and therefore encourage all Ghanaians to take advantage of the evacuation exercise.
For those of them who think that this is an opportunity for them to enter into Europe, Europe is not safe, not because there is war extended to Europe, but the immigration services are very alert. And the last thing we want is for any student or any Ghanaian entering into a country only to be arrested. At least what government is doing, which is to offer to bring them back, is with the greatest respect, parents and families, is at least taking some burden off you, so that in the future, when calm down and life returns to normal, you can send your children back.
And at a meeting with parents and relatives of Ghanaian nationals in Ukraine at the Accra International Conference Center, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs gave the assurance that Ukraine-based Ghanaians will be safely evacuated back into the country at no cost to their respective families. The Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Ms. Shelley Ayoko-Botry, disclosed that as at February 28, 2022, an estimated 527 Ghanaian nationals had crossed the Ukraine border into various European countries.
5 p.m. on 28th of February, which is yesterday, an estimated number of 527 Ghanaian nationals had crossed the Ukrainian border to various European countries, and they will soon be with us in Ghana as long as they are willing to be evacuated, and it will be at no cost to them. The breakdown is as follows. In Prague, 49 Ghanaians, including one child, there's one student who has a 4-year-old, were received by the diplomatic mission and are waiting to be processed for departure to Ghana. In Slovakia, 25 Ghanaians arrived and on their way to Prague to be received by a diplomatic mission. In Romania, 134 Ghanaians were received by an official of the Prague diplomatic mission and are awaiting relevant processes for departure to Ghana. This morning from Romania, the 16 of our students arrived. They had arrived on Saturday, I believe, so we were able to process them quickly, get them tickets to come. They arrived this morning, and tomorrow a few others, quite a number of them, will also leave. 81 arrived in Poland. 221 have arrived at the border in Hungary and are on their way to the city of Budapest. The government of Ghana is ready to evacuate all the 527 of our citizens in a coordinated manner.
Now to court, where the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Mr. Godfred Yeboah-Dame, says the petition by the opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, to the Commonwealth Secretariat against the Akufo-Addo administration constitutes an attempt to undermine Ghana's sovereignty. The NDC, in a petition signed by its General Secretary, Mr. Johnson Esiedu Nketia, accused the government of human rights abuses and harassment and intimidation of opposition elements. But speaking to journalists on Tuesday, Mr. Yeboah-Dame said the allegations are He said the government is unfazed by the action taken by the NDC and would continue to prosecute persons found to have flouted the law of Ghana.
It constitutes a clear attempt to undermine the efficient administration of justice in the country. It constitutes an attempt to interfere with the sound administration of justice, and that borders on contempt of court. As far as I'm concerned, no foreign entity can influence or interfere with the course of justice in the country. Justice emanates from the people of Ghana. The Constitution makes the Supreme Court of Ghana the highest court of the country. The decisions of the Supreme Court of Ghana, or indeed any other court in Ghana, is not subject to review by any foreign body. So as far as I'm concerned, all these attempts by the NDC is actually an attempt to infringe on the sovereignty of Ghana. Sovereignty under Article 1 resides the people of Ghana. And of course, it is the Constitution which is a fundamental of the country. And I'm saying the Constitution itself has made the Supreme Court and all the other courts under the judicial architecture final. Decisions from those courts are final and not subject to review by any foreign entity at all. So it is only a clear case of palpable violation of a person's human rights that a foreign court may, that's an African Court of Human Rights in this instance, may intervene. In the absence of that, there is no way a decision of the Supreme Court of Ghana or any other court of Ghana can actually be subject to review by any foreign court. So I deem this as a clear attempt to undermine the sovereignty of the Republic, and same must not be condoned.
A national call to duty on June 10, 2022 is for 20 million trees to be planted across the country as part of the Green Ghana initiative. President Akufo-Addo said this course of action requires mobilizing the entire nation's human resource to help protect the ecosystem, which is fast depleting due to deforestation. The president was speaking at the launch of the 2022 Green Ghana Day in Accra.
Globally, the depleted forest cover can be compared to the size of Libya. This is about 157 million hectares of land size. Ghana had had her fair share of deforestation, with about 8 million hectares in the last 40 years, with Galamsey being the most prominent destructive tool. Though there hasn't been any comprehensive study on the economic impact of deforestation on Ghana's economy, it is estimated to have cost the nation some hundreds of millions of dollars. The Minister for Lands and Forestry, Mr. Samuel Abu-Janapo, reported that almost all the 5 million trees planted in 2021 are in good state. He said the frontiers of the tree planting exercise will be extended to cover not only forest zones, but also schools and city parks.
We recognize that the cause of making Ghana green requires collective action and the participation of all and sundry. We do this for the survival of our planet, and this is the time to preserve our country for the future. Let us mobilize for a greener future.
And the call to national duty continues. President Akufo-Addo urging Ghanaians to join him on June 10, 2022 to plant and nurture 20 million trees across the country.
This project is one of the ways of fulfilling this constitutional obligation, and we must all make it a point to participate in this national exercise. This noble venture ought to be funded and executed through our joint efforts, and as much as possible without burdening the public treasury. We can do it, and I call on all Ghanaians and residents of Ghana to contribute in diverse ways to this welcome and worthy adventure.
Experts say trees are nexus to achieving the SDGs because healthy trees cool the planet by absorbing and storing harmful pollutants. Also, by helping plant trees, families will continue to enjoy fruit, mushrooms and medicinal plants, which are often a first recourse for illness. Edward Nyakun, reporting for GBC News.
On the international front, the African Union says it is disturbed by reports that African nationals in Ukraine are being prevented from safely crossing the border to flee the raging conflict in the country. In a statement late Monday, the Pan-African body said all people have the right to cross international borders during conflict and as such should enjoy the same rights to cross to safety from the conflict in Ukraine, notwithstanding their nationality or racial identity. African nationals, mostly students, have accused Ukrainian security forces of stopping them from boarding trains headed to the border regions. African countries have been scrambling to evacuate their students from Ukraine since Moscow sent its troops across the border on Thursday. Meanwhile, an alleged Russian strike on broadcasting infrastructure knocks out television channels as miles-long military convoy approaches the capital. A huge Russian military convoy is edging closer to Ukraine's capital, Kiev, where an alleged Russian attack has struck a television tower.
According to reports, at least 70 Ukrainian soldiers were killed on Monday in a Russian artillery attack on a military base in Oktyaka. President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for a no-fly zone over Ukraine and appealed for the European Union to admit his country as a member. According to a regional official report, Russian missiles have struck residential areas in the northeastern city of Kharkiv. Negotiations between delegations from Kiev and Moscow held at the Ukrainian-Belarus border on Monday ended with no agreements.
And that's how we wrap up the 6 a.m. news on breakfast. I am Malti Decider Sadiq. Up next is the weather, after which Telma brings to you Keep an Eye.